Hello everyone, this is an American English Academy video. Today we're going to be studying the simple present tense. Remember, I'm your teacher, Kenneth Varela, and that you could always find us at our webpage, YouTube channel, and Facebook. Simple present tense affirmative. In this chart, you can take a look at all the nouns that we have in English, along with an example verb. So you say, I work, you work, she works. As you can see, we had an S here. He works and it works. This is only for the third person. And then we go back to the original form or the base form of the verb. We work, you work, and they work. We're going to take a look at how this rule of adding an extra letter goes to the third person. Now, for the majority of the verbs, the third person singular in the simple present is formed by adding an S. But this is only to the majority of the verbs. There are some rules that we need to take into account. Here, for example, we say, she works on her basket after dinner every day. These are the rules that we need to take into account. We're going to be studying the third person singular spelling rules. Rule number 1. In general, the third person singular is formed by adding an S to the main verb. So work would be works. But pay close attention to rule number 2. Verbs ending with double S, X, CH, SH, and O, we only have to add ES to the third person singular. So as you can see in the examples, dress would be dresses, fix would be fixes, watch would be watches, wash would be washes, and go would be goes. Rule number 3. Verbs ending in consonant Y, change the Y to an I and add ES. As in the case of the word cry, would be cries. Fly would be flies. Terrify would be terrifies. So here we have some other examples of how the main verbs may change when using the third person singular. As you can see here, we have our first word, which is the word push, which would be pushes. Sneeze, which would be sneezes. Glorify, which would be glorifies. Annoy, which would be annoys. And as you can see here, we only add an S for one particular reason. We have letter O that is followed by the consonant Y. So we have a vowel and a consonant, and that's the reason why we only add an S. Then we have the word kiss, which would be kisses. Deny would be denies. And marry would be marries. Interrogative sentences. Well, we know that when we make questions, we have to start our questions with an auxiliary verb. So questions for the third person will begin with the auxiliary verb does. The rest of the nouns will start with the auxiliary verb do. So this is the formula. Does as an auxiliary verb, subject, and then the verb in basic form. Does he want? Does she need? Does it work? Remember to always start your questions with an auxiliary verb. Does he work as a doctor? There are two possible answers. This is a yes or no question, so the answer would be affirmative or negative. So you can say yes, he does, or no, he doesn't. So here we have a chart. This is how we build up questions. And we would say, Do I work? Do you work? Does she work? Does he work? Does it work? Do we work? Do you work? Do they work? Now we're going to take a look into negative statements. We also use auxiliary word does for third person and do for the rest of the nouns. So in order to write down negative statements, we will start with the subject, then the auxiliary verb, then the word not, and finally the basic form of the verb. So we would say he does not want, she does not need, it does not work. He doesn't work as a doctor. He works as a taxi driver. So here we have the short. There are two ways to write this kind of sentences. We can have it in long form or in contraction form. So you can say, I do not work, or I don't work. You do not work, or you don't work. She doesn't work, or she does not work. He does not work, or he doesn't work. It does not work, or it doesn't work. We do not work, or we don't work. You do not work, or you don't work. They do not work, or they don't work. Either way is acceptable. So now we learn how to build up this kind of sentences, but we also have to learn the usage, the application into real English. First of all, we're going to say that we use the simple present tense to express ourselves about facts which are always true, general truth, facts in science or geographical descriptions. For example, here we have a scientific description. We say that water freezes at 0 degrees. This is always going to be true and never going to be different. We also use the simple present tense to describe actions that happen regularly, like habits and routines. In this case, we also introduce the usage of adverbs of frequency. As in the example, it says, they usually take a walk with their son. This is what they regularly do, probably 2 or 3 times a week. What do we describe? We also describe opinions, likes and dislikes. As in the example says, she likes making snowmen, right? Along with the simple present tense, we also have the usage of frequency adverbs, as the word always, often, generally, usually, normally, sometimes, and never. Look at the example. It says, he normally cooks pasta, or musicians sometimes work on Sundays. Besides that, we have sometime expressions like every day, every month, every year, on Sundays, at weekends, etc. There are many others. But if you manage to pull these ones through, you're going to be just fine. Thank you for watching another American English Academy video, and I hope to see you again next time.